All right, so I want to go over inventory with you guys. Compared to most trucks, we really don't have a whole lot. This will be a quick video. Most of the fittings that we need are going to be in this toolbox right here, so let's go over that. So it just so happens that the lock on this actually fell out, but when you get assigned a vehicle, you're going to be given two keys. It'll be these two right here. This is going to be for the door. This is going to be for your toolbox. One thing I want to make really clear is that all of the inventory in the trucks is exactly the same, and I want it to stay that way. Regardless of how you feel the truck is organized, don't take your fittings and put them in the toolbox behind the seat, or don't take the hoses and put them in the toolbox down here. Keep everything the way it is in the truck. That way you know where it is no matter what truck you're working on. When you're on fires, you're going to be bouncing from fire to fire. It's important that the inventory stays where it is. In our folder, we're going to have a checkoff sheet on all of these fittings, but you essentially want this Christmas tree here. I'm not going to go over the detail of every single fitting. In all honesty, you're not going to use most of these fittings. The only fittings you're really going to use is this adapter here, which is your 2.5 to 3 cam lock, and your foot valve. All this other stuff is just extra fittings required by the fire. Every once in a while, you're going to use your fire hydrant wrench if you're filling from a fire hydrant. But other than that, this stuff almost never gets used. But the most important part is that it doesn't get rearranged. Here we've got a grease gun. This grease gun is for this driveline. It's important to grease this driveline from time to time because we don't want to blow out the U-joints. If you're using the PTO a lot, you're going to want to grease the driveline like every other day or so. There's a bottle jack in here. There's a 2.5-inch clamp. I would be shocked if you ever use this thing. This is also probably the most expensive tool on the entire truck, so really make sure that this doesn't get lost. This toolbox here is just a bunch of sockets and wrenches, no real screwdrivers or pliers, and so we've actually got a separate bag, those tools behind the driver's seat. Okay, on the passenger side floorboard, we have our 100-foot 1.5-inch hose and our 2.5-inch 50-foot hose. We've got our fire extinguisher here. This is all stuff that the inspector is going to need when you're getting checked into a fire. Make sure that he can see it. Once again, don't move this stuff. You will rarely ever use these pieces of equipment, and if you ever do use them, make sure it goes back. The problem when you're going to a fire is that because there's so much of this inventory that the fire provides, if you put this into a hose lay, you'll probably lose it forever. They'll mistake it for their own equipment. Now, granted, all of our equipment has our own etching in it, but it's really easy to go fill water if you've left this into a hose lay to get reassigned, and you'll never see that hose again. And this stuff is super expensive, so if you can, try not to use it. The fire will provide plenty of it, and if you do use it, make sure it comes with the truck when you leave. So with any luck, these trucks shouldn't be leaking any kind of fluids at all, but if they do, we have extra fluids right here in the toolbox that's under the spare tire. In here we have coolant and engine oil. Those are the only fluids that this truck will really need. The transmission takes engine oil, the power steering takes engine oil, and the power unit takes engine oil, and the engine takes engine oil. That's part of the military's design. They make these trucks super simple, which is great. I love that part about these trucks. So that's all that's going to be in there is coolant and engine oil. Keep an eye on your fluids every single day, but with any luck, we hopefully won't have to get into any of those. Okay, so we have one more toolbox that's really important, and it's located behind the driver's side seat. This is the toolbox behind the driver's side seat. It's got two latches here. If you're ever going to lift the cab, it's really important that these latches are closed, because if not, the tools will come out and hit the windshield and we'll be in real trouble. Before I get into the toolbox, actually, I want to make sure that you guys see that our shovel and Pulaski are mounted on the back of the cab. That is going to be important for inspection. Usually the inspectors will see them, but if they ask for them, that's where they're located. In here, we have a little latch that can keep the lid up. That just goes there. And in here, we have a handful of random things. This is all going to be important for inspection, and we have a few extra things as well. So tire gauge, airline for airing up the tires. This isn't required. This is just extra that we have for the truck. This is the extra tool bag that has wrenches and screwdrivers in it. This bag also has a spare of almost everything. We have spare fuses, breakers, we have zip ties, quick disconnect airlines, some brake clean, and some WD-40. So this is kind of a nice little one fix all bag. Almost any problem that you have with the truck you can fix with what's in here. We also have a couple rags. We have some window cleaner. This is a torque multiplier. Once again, not required, just something that is ours, not required inventory for the truck. Now we have flares and a 5-man first aid kit. These two are required. The inspector is going to want to see them. So when you're going through inspection, make sure that he can see them. As you can see, there's not a whole lot that goes into this toolbox, so it's not too hard to take it out for him to see. And I'm going to repeat this a lot. Please make sure all this stuff goes back and stays organized. Try not to put too much of anything else in this toolbox, because you're going to probably forget it, and then the next driver is going to come and all of your personal shit is going to be in here. So just be aware of that. These trucks aren't super clean really, but you know, just you want to make sure that whoever's taking over your position is getting the same truck that you received. So just try to keep the truck, I mean, you know, they're dirty trucks, but at least try to keep them organized. Another required thing that the inspector is probably going to want to see is the contract, and I've got them in these little plastic folders. They also belong in the toolbox behind the driver's seat. So when you show up to a fire, the first thing you're going to want to do is grab this folder that's in the driver box in the center console. As you open it up, there are 2 copies of our contract. Now, you're going to be going from fire to fire. The overhead are going to want to try to take these, but if you can, just see if they'll take a copy of it. You kind of have to fight for that. The next page is your inventory. Any and all things that are on this truck are going to be on this list as far as what's required. The next is our scale tickets. The inspector might want to see this, so just note that that is where they are located. Same thing with this book. Don't add or subtract any of the paperwork in here. Next is your credit card. So when you're on the road and you need fuel or if you need food, this is the credit card that you'll be using. Next page is our registration. Usually what I do is I just hand this whole folder over to the inspector and he'll find any information in here that he needs. This is all of our exemptions for being a fire truck. Here's our DOT paperwork. And also our DOT sticker is on the driver's side rear window. Just a side note. Our truck has free floating baffles. And so if he's ever asking about the baffling system, this is the page for that. This is our certification for free floating baffles in our tank. We will have an insurance card here, but I haven't gotten it filled out yet. If you're ever having any confusion with how the water system works on this truck, here's a schematic of the water piping. And then on the back of that diagram, there is a step-by-step instructions on how to use the PTO for using the sprayer heads or for how to draft. And then the back, if you ever have any questions about how to use your portable radio, you can find those in here. And then the last is going to be the drug consortium that we're part of in order to be legal to operate these vehicles. So before any of you get launched to a fire, I'm going to be meeting with you and going over all of our inventory to make sure that you know where everything is, and to make sure that I know that when you're leaving with the truck that it has everything that you need. So this is inside of our storage container. We have our extra Nomex shirts and pants that we can loan out if you don't have your own. Right down here is going to be all of our PP&E. Before you leave on a fire, I'll be launching you, and so we'll be going over all of this stuff in person. So as you're getting ready to launch onto a fire, before you leave, there'll be a little check-off sheet here to make sure that you have everything you need. But a quick overview of what's in here. You know, you've got your helmet, you'll have a radio, you'll have fire shelter. In here is flashlights, headlamps, earplugs, and eye protection. You'll have some gloves here. We have plenty to choose from if you need to get a different size. And then we'll have a few extra things that aren't necessarily required, but they're nice to have. Chest harness for the radio and some USB chargers as well. So when we get a fire assignment, the way it works is we get this piece of paper here. What this is a resource order. Now, a resource order is going to give us a resource number. The resource number is the number that they give us, and they'll put it right up in the top right corner of the windshield, and it'll be an E number because that stands for equipment. They'll give that to you once you've gone through inspection, but you're going to need this paper Once you show up to the fire, this is essentially your golden ticket that gets you through check-in. And then once you get through check-in, then you're gonna be in their system. They're gonna know how to bill for our services and everything. Pretty much all of the information that you need is gonna be on here. Whatever you do not lose this piece of paper. This can go in that binder in the center console on top of the contract. But because each one of these is gonna be unique to the fire that you're going to, it's gonna be something that I actually hand you or something that I email to you so that you can print it out. Next is shift tickets. Almost all the information that you need to fill out this shift ticket is going to be either in your contract or on this resource order number. This is how we get paid. So it is absolutely crucial that you fill these out every single day. Typically the way it works is you fill it out the day that you're working, and then at briefing in the morning, your task force will sign it. And when they sign it, they'll take a copy, or they'll tell you to send a copy over to finance. If you don't fill these out, we don't get paid. So it's very important that these get filled out, they get filled out correctly. You're just gonna wanna have the agreement number in there, the incident project that you're on, the times that you're in and out on working. You're gonna want all of the truck information on there. If you have any questions with this stuff, you can always give me a call, or you can ask another contractor. It's always important to put your E number up in the corner so that they know who you are. If you can get a signature on it, it's usually good. The task force or the division soup will look at your paperwork to make sure that it's right, and he'll sign it. And you wanna make sure to bring this with you every single day when you go to briefing. Okay, so that's just about it for inventory and paperwork. It might seem a little intimidating at first, but it won't take long for you to get the hang of it. I'll be working with you guys really closely. Don't be shy to ask questions if you need to. Other than that, that pretty much covers it. So thanks for watching.